and welcome to another fantastic, amazing episode of The Framework of Tomorrow. I'm your host, Keegan Goldfarb, and this is episode 34. Today, I am going to be talking about the history of sound within film and what we can learn from it. I don't know why I'm talking like that. I'm talking a little weird tonight. It is also, it's like 10:20 at night. I came over to the studios. I decided, after I finished some of my statistics homework, I was like, I need to go record. I should go record. So I decided to come here and work a little bit on that. And I was like, you know what I'm talking about? I'm going to talk about the sounds of film and a little bit of history between that and what we can learn from sound. Because, and here's why, I am very passionate about sound because, and guess why? I am a radio and recording arts major. So I work a lot with sound. I work a lot with, a radio station. I work with music and stuff like that. So I am pretty passionate when it comes to sound, and it's a great topic, and I love it. I love it. I love the history behind it. I love what we are doing with sound and everything we can do with sound. So let us hop right into it, and we are going to talk about, I'm going to talk about film with sound. So, film with sound. It's a little more complex than some people think it is. Because, say you're listening to a movie, right? You go and sit down and look at a movie, and did you know that most of the movie, or like the sound in film, isn't recorded on set? So, like the footsteps, closing the door, putting your phone on the table, putting a cup on the table, most of that's not even recorded there or with those objects. Most of them are recorded in sound studios or off of that, and it's called Foley sound. I wanted to kind of explain this. He's a part of the history. Jack Foley, that is where the name Foley came from. He's actually one of the really early sound designers that we see. A sound designer, by the way, is a sound design is the practice of artfully and practicing putting sounds within a production. So you're kind of the one in charge of the sound within a production. I know I'm kind of peeking a little bit here, so I'm sorry if I get a little quiet and then it goes. I hope that's not the case. I think I can fix that, but yeah, I'm really quiet for some reason. What in the world? Oh my gosh. Okay. Anyway, we are talking about sound design. So Foley sound. You see someone walking across a screen. Most of that isn't even recorded there, like I said. So to put sound in a movie, it was a very complicated process, and early films actually didn't even have sound. There were very soundless films, and they would be accompanied. Say you're going to like a theater, and you know how they have the little the box below where they have all the musicians and stuff play, like at plays, which they still have, because live sound does sound very well with a live, performance like that. So that's how it was with movie. They would just have like a projector projecting onto a screen, and they would just have, because they didn't know how to incorporate it, they'd have a live orchestra or something playing like that in the little box. I can't remember what it's called. The pit, that's what it's called. The pit. So they would have that in there. And that's kind of how they originally did movies. And that's why you see like all those black and white movies where it's like, I mean, I don't know if The Entertainer is the one that's accompanying them, but you know what I mean? Some of the old movies, they have like that old classic kind of feel to them with just music. There was never any kind of talking within those movies. Very early on, very, very early on, early like 1900s and stuff like that. But this all completely changed. Oh, by the way, they had live music accompaniments, and sometimes they had live special effects, which is really cool. They have someone like a behind the curtain kind of like clanging some cymbals or hitting other things or waving stuff for rain and stuff like that, like waving an aluminum piece of metal to sound like rain, and then hitting it with a metal hammer or something to sound like lightning. So that's how that originally was. This all changed in 1927 with the creation of the Vitaphone, which allowed music to basically match picture, or audio to match picture. That's when this was kind of a big thing. So slowly throughout history, after the Vitaphone is created, it slowly becomes more and more complex with sound, because originally they were just with the Vitaphone they would match it with the because before everything wasn't even digitally. They had to they would have to cut the film, because the film you guys know what film is. I hope you know what film is. If you don't, just look it up quick. Not like the actual what we would call film today, but like the physical little film that they'd have to cut. They'd have to cut that, and they'd have like a sound, the audio little line, and then they'd have the other one, and they'd both be feeding into a projector, kind of like that. And that was revolutionary at the time, because 1927, we've never been able to capture sound. Not even just regarding film, just in general, we were never able to capture sound. We didn't know how to capture it and like be able to record it. So that was kind of a really, really, really big thing, and have that to match the picture. So early on with film production, there was companies, of course, of Warner Brothers. They were one of the major first companies to come up during that time. And they had kind of a set library of sounds that could be heard across their whole entire film. So think about it this way. If Warner Brothers produces 3 action movies, and like a cowboy movie, maybe a war movie, and I don't know, a spy movie or something like that, and there's a gunshot in all 3 of those movies. The thing with Warner Brothers was they, and all the other ones, all the early all the other early production companies, is they would have the same sound for those bullets. So it'd be like when you hit it, have you ever heard, I'm sure you've heard the classic, like when someone shoots the gun in like the old films and stuff like that. They all sounded the same without the different production companies. So like Warner Brothers, that would sound something, I can't think of any other early, that's the only one that came to my head, from early film production companies. But then somebody else would have a different kind of sound for their gunshot, but it would be heard throughout their whole entire films. That's just how it was, because it's the easiest way to do that, because they just have a sound library. In film today, we still have sound libraries to an extent, but they're so vast to the point where you can't really make that connection. And a lot of it is Foley recorded, because they want to get that depth. So like a different shot, say one guy is shooting he shoots a gun in a tunnel and one shoots it outside. Obviously, they want to have a gunshot that sounds like it's being shot inside of a tunnel, so they will record a shot inside of a tunnel, whereas like outside, they'll record a shot outside, so it matches more of the picture and it sounds more realistic. That's kind of what they wanted to do. That's kind of what they want to do now, because it's way more complex. So moving towards the late 60s and the 70s, with kind of our understanding of sound and how complex it was, it started to become more complex, because we had a bunch of different sound designers that kind of wanted to step out of the box with that, such as like Walter Murray, Ben Burt. I think it's Walter Murray. I think that's his name. Ben Burt, with different films such as like Apocalypse Now. There's Star Wars. There's Indiana Jones. There's The Godfather. There's a lot of those sound designers for those films in the late 60s, early 70s wanted it to be more complex and more real. So they started being sound designers and being able to kind of have that more complex sound. And within this time period, Dolby was it was revolutionary, because before they would just have a speaker behind the whatever I can't think of it, like behind in the movie theater with the screen. It would be behind the screen, just be one major what is it called? One major speaker behind it. But then they started to incorporate 2, like a more of a surround. Well, I guess it was 2, and then a surround sound, which was a 6-speaker system, which is why it sounds so like you can hear it kind of all around you in a theater now, is because we have it so complex to the point where they can do that. And that makes sound even more complex because they can actually target which speaker they want. So say in the picture there is a cowboy that's circling the person, but the person's point of view stays straight. They can make the sound travel amongst the speakers throughout the whole entire theater to make it sound like he's walking behind. And then once he's back on the screen, obviously the sound is coming more from where you're looking and where the character is looking. So it gets way more complex with that. But it's so interesting. It's so cool to have that happen and have it get more complex. And of course, it even gets more complex when you start adding in animated movies as well as video games. I was just talking today with some of my classmates, and actually I presented this in class, a game called Destiny, and it's a game made by Bungie. It's been going on for about 6 years, 7 years, and it was a little documentary quick on kind of how they created sound within their game, and they actually went out and shot a bunch of guns and recorded that and kind of edited it down to make it sound like a sci-fi gun. So Destiny is kind of a more space game. It's sci-fi and stuff like that. So like some of the aliens and stuff, one of them is kind of like a robot race, and they went to a production facility that punches metal, and like they recorded some of the machines punching through that metal and made that like the footsteps. Or one guy he would put an amp next to a TV, because if you know what that sounds like for a guitar, it's like that sound. And they made that for like the invisibility sound. Like he edited it to sound just really cool and like staticky. And it's so cool. And so that's kind of more sound becomes more complex, and we're using Foley and stuff like that. And that would be kind of more of like a sound designer realm. And that's kind of what I want to go into, whether it's radio or sound design, because sound design is just, it's so cool. And I absolutely am so passionate about this subject. So sound today is much more complex, and it just sounds so real. And of course, you've gone to the movie theater and experienced that yourself. But growing up without kind of more of the complex systems, less of the complex system, I take it for granted, and I'm like, wow, our sound today is just, it's so amazing. It's just hundreds of layered tracks within the movie to do this, and it's crazy. They take so much time, and it's amazing how the sound designer, it's like, so there's the director, and it's like the sound designer. Those are like the two head people, because the director's like the film guy, and he wants the picture to be good, and then there's a sound designer, and they both work like very much together. And I feel like in Hollywood, the director gets a lot more of the credit for that, which I don't know how I completely feel about that, but the sound designer is definitely very important. I know George Lucas has said this too. He's like, I couldn't do my movies without my sound designers. Like Ben Burt, George Lucas had Ben Burt come on and create a lot of the fantastic sounds within the Star Wars movies, as well as he worked on Indiana Jones, I believe, with him. But it's just so incredible, so incredibly cool. It's great. So yes, that is sound within film. A little bit of history of sound design and how sound went into film. So what can we learn from all of this? And you're kind of probably thinking, you're like, what can we learn from this? It's not like we're having some weird problem with sound. But I would say one thing is to appreciate sound. Sound is something that we hear throughout daily life, and just take some time. Go to your park, or even in the room you're in right now. If you just be completely silent and hear just like the ambience in the air, like the sound within the air, if I can be completely quiet, you can probably hear the sound within this room. So I'm going to be quiet for like 5 seconds, and you'll probably hear the sound within the room I'm in right now. I'll try to hear it as well. I'm going to take one of my headphones off to try to hear it. So I'm going to be quiet for 5 seconds. Okay. I guess that was like 3 seconds. But I just even 3 seconds, I was just listening, and I can kind of hear. I'm in a sound proofed, relatively proofed. What am I trying to say? Recording studio. So the cool like, I don't really hear that much. I hear a little bit of the ambience. I can kind of hear a little bit of the air system in the building, just a little bit, but I obviously won't be picking up in here. I can also hear, like, even some of my own, like, my breathing, because it's so soundproofed in here. But, like, what did you hear? You can just think about that. And one of the really cool things is when you go outside and just sit in nature and just listen. And that is just the coolest thing, just listening and trying to, like, layer in your head all of the different things you're hearing, whether it's like birds and squirrels and acorns dropping on the ground, the sound of the wind going through the air. It's so beautiful. And I think we all need to go outside and just appreciate the beauty of nature, the beauty of sound. And even inside, there's beautiful sound inside as well. But especially outside, oh, it's so beautiful, and it's so underappreciated. And we all just need to not only look at nature and see how beautiful it is, but listen and hear how beautiful sound is as well. So yes, that's kind of what I want to talk about today. And my random history fact today that I always do is in 2016, Mozart actually sold more CDs than Beyonce in 2016. Isn't that crazy? That's absolutely insane. That was he 18th century composer? What century was Mozart from? 18th century. Yeah, 18th century. I'm sorry. I was right. That an 18th century composer could sell more CDs than Beyonce could. I mean, he is an amazing composer, so he definitely deserves it. Not that Beyonce isn't, but he is a master. Just a master of music. Fantastic. So thank you so much for listening to this episode. Make sure to check me out at The Framework of Tomorrow on Instagram. Send me any thoughts and questions you have there. Any kind of ideas you have, that would be fantastic. I'd love that. Please make sure to rate me 5 stars on iTunes, or any stars. It just helps me out. I can shout you out at the beginning of the episode if you want me to. I actually need to check iTunes because I've been saying this and I haven't actually checked iTunes. I need to do that. I upload every Monday and Wednesday at 5 a.m. Have a fantastic rest of your day, and make sure to check out the Wednesday episode this week for another fantastic episode of The Framework of Tomorrow.